Hey everybody, welcome back. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming back after yesterday. My apologies. Apparently a mobile phone needs memory in order to record video. I don't know. I don't understand this technology thing. But anyway, so I ran out of memory yesterday in the middle of a really purposeful talk. So today we're going to go back and we are going to read those last 5 verses again. And then I'm going to stop and talk about them for a little bit because I really felt like it was something that we needed to stop and talk about. And so I'm not going to just let it go. But I do apologize for the terrible ending of yesterday's video. And if you haven't been able to pick up on this, there's not really any post-production process or editor to hand it off to. I kind of just hit upload and then I go to work. So I didn't really have time to fix or amend a wrap up for yesterday. So appreciate you sticking with me through that and coming back today to pick up the cliffhanger. So like I said, we're going to read through it first and then we'll try to pick up where we left off yesterday. I went back and watched it to try to figure out what I talked about yesterday, and I'm sure I will repeat myself, but there's also the chance that someone is here that was not here yesterday. I have a hard time seeing through the phone as to who's sitting on the other side, both now and in the future, so we'll go ahead as if this may be the only video somebody sees. So anyway, Proverbs 24, verse 30 through 34. I passed by the field of a sluggard, by the vineyard of a man lacking sense. And behold, it was all overgrown with thorns, and ground was covered with nettles. Its stone wall was broken down. Then I saw and considered it. I looked and received instruction. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man. So before we get into the different pieces, I will point out that what we are doing is what it's talking about in Proverbs 24:32. It says, "Then I saw it and considered it. I looked and received instruction." So the lesson here is to pay attention, look and see what's going on, and learn lessons where you can. So today we're talking about the lesson of this sluggard and vineyard. This lazy person and their field. We talked about yesterday about how if a field is gone or is left with no maintenance, no one's weeding it, no one's pruning it, no one's taking care of it, you'll have different types of plants and overgrowth, weeds and vines and whatever will come in and take over, and it won't be useful for the production it was created for, or not created for necessarily, but what it was originally purposed for when it was purchased. And we talked about how that's applicable to different parts of our life, and we're going to go into that here in just a second. But the first thing I wanted to do was kind of go through the different pieces of this. So the first thing we see after this lazy person sluggard is identified, right? We're talking about his land, this vineyard that's overgrown. So the first thing it talks about is nettles and thorns, and so these are both different types of thorny plants, invasive species, if you will, and so it's some type of some type of plant that's not going to be easy to remove. It's not going to be painless to remove, but it grows in and it infests your otherwise productive areas. And like I said, it's not going to be easy or painless to remove. It's going to be a pain, and it's not going to be easy. So we'll remember that for later. Another thing is it's slow moving. You don't forget to mow your yard one week or fail to mow your yard one week and come back and it's covered in thorns, right? It's just the grass is a little bit longer. There may be some more weeds, but it's not covered in thorns and nettles as it is. So it's slow moving. It's not quick. We also see that stone wall is broken down. the actual protective barrier that's supposed to keep this type of stuff out is obviously not doing its job because it's not been maintenance, but it itself is also damaged. Again, I don't know how much interaction you've had with stone walls, but they are not, they're not weak, and they're not just going to fall over on a whim. This is, continued lack of maintenance. But the wall is there for protection, to keep, wildlife out, to keep other types of growth out, and to protect, the vineyard. One thing with the stone wall is it's not going to be easy to rebuild. It's going to take work again. Just like the thorns, it's going to be painful. This is going to be work. It's going to take effort, etc. And we're going to try to apply some of this later. And then we see, the reason that it is falling down is because of the sleep, the slumber, the rest. And that's not to say that you should never sleep, you should never rest. Obviously, that's not the case. But there's always, there's moderation in everything, right? So if we sleep enough to, to function, to live, to be happy, to be healthy, that's one thing. But when you're sleeping an excessive amount, or you're resting an excessive amount, you're wasting large amounts of time, or even small amounts of time. I think we're already essentially answering for every minute that we spend. So a minute wasted is a minute we could be using for something productive, whether it's relationship building or work or whatever. And so, every minute is worth saving and cherishing. And not that you should never rest and slumber, but just, you are accountable for each minute that you spend. And then lastly, we see the end product in 34 is that poverty will come over you like a robber, and want like an armed man. So we see poverty and want. That's, destruction of relationships, destruction of finances, lacking in something that you were hoping for, lacking in something that you thought you had achieved, etc. So that's kind of what we see here. So the reason I was really passionate about getting into this yesterday, and the reason I'm back today and not moving forward with some more scripture, is because I feel like this is applicable to every part of our lives, and we need to step back and look at our life critically. We need to do, like it talks about in verse 32, we need to see and consider and receive instruction, so we can look at our lives and see lessons as to what we need to be doing better. We can look at other people's lives, those that have come before us. There are all kinds of books on each of these areas that we're going to talk about that you can read and apply. You can look at your friend's life and see, okay, well, he did this and it resulted in that, and I don't want to have that result, so I'm not going to do that, whatever the case may be. But what I wanted to point out is that in each area of our life, it's like a vineyard, right? We've got to tend it. We can't let the thorns come in. We've got to maintenance the wall and make sure that there's no damage done. We need to protect against people coming in, trying to come in and knock things down. We need to protect it. We need to look out for it. We need to maintenance. And we need to not be lazy. We need to be vigilant and adamant about taking care of what's ours and cultivating the good things in our life. And so I think the most direct application is your career. It's talking about here, a vineyard in theory would be a way to make money. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, so I'm not going to belabor the point. But, vineyard would be a way to make money, or a financial asset for this man. And so, if you aren't maintaining your career, these, slow-moving viruses can come in and take over. And they're painful to remove. They're bad habits that are hard to break. It might be checking some website at work that it's not work-related. It might be having conversations that aren't needed at work. And these are little brambles and thorns that can get in and cause pain. And they get in the way of getting the work done. And so we need to maintenance those things. We need to look out for those. I think that's I mean, other than kind of what we talked about yesterday, that's kind of it for careers. Just being vigilant, making sure you maintenance it, making sure you're advancing your career, that you're learning. If you're not learning, your career will eventually be obsolete. So if you're not learning new things to apply to your work, then eventually you will be replaced by a machine, because a machine can repeat emotion over and over quicker than you can. So the difference between us and robotics and machinery is that we can gain more knowledge, we can learn. We are sentient humans. We have the ability to gain more and get better. But anyway, it's also applicable in your marriage, right? There's thorns that come in. There are little arguments that aren't settled that come in, and they're small, they're little, they're no big deal until until you give them a little bit of ground, and then there's another one that piles on top of it, and then you give it a little bit more ground, and there's another one, and then another one, and then another one, and eventually you look back and you've got a whole vineyard full of thorns and brambles. And you're like, where is the vineyard? I can't even find it. Where is my marriage? All I see is arguments, and all I see is tension, and all I see is pain, all I see is destruction. So we have to manage those things. We have to be vigilant about settling things and getting them figured out, and talking about things and communicating, and not letting these things come in. We need to have a protection. We need to have a stone wall around our marriage, right? We need to keep invaders out. We need to not let other people, other temptations, whatever they may be, into your marriage, and protect it like it's your life-giving blood, because it is. We need to not be lazy. We need to be vigilant. We need to be constantly figuring out how to be better husbands, better wives, how to make sure that our spouse has what they need, make sure that they have their emotional needs met, make sure that they have their physical needs met. Make sure you're speaking their love language. Make sure you're speaking their appreciation language. That there's a way that you can communicate with them, so that they'll understand it, so that it'll mean more to them. And ask those questions, figure those things out, read those books. Whatever the case may be, look at those studies. Look at those videos on YouTube or YouVersion or wherever. Get this information and apply it to your marriage. Maintenance it so that you don't have damage and destruction down the road. It's true with children. If you ignore a habit, it's going to continue. If you ignore something that needs to be corrected, it's going to continue. Those brambles come in, they take over, and then you look back and you've got a vineyard full of thorns and brambles, and you're like, where is my child? What happened? How did we get here? You've got to maintenance those things. You've got to protect your children from the world that's going to try to come in and try to destroy and try to take over. That's what the world does. That's Satan's job, is to come in and steal your marriage, steal your children. This is true with finances. You got to watch out for the little things that try to sneak in. You've got to maintenance those things. You can't let that $5 habit become a destructive issue. You can't let that $20 impulse buy be an issue. You can't let those things take over. You've got to maintain. You've got to protect. You've got to be vigilant. This is true in every area of life. That's why I wanted to come back today and talk about these 5 verses. Normally I'm trying to cover as much scripture as I can, because I know the Word is the teacher, and I'm just not even a translator. I'm just here to try to get it to you in a different form, so that you can apply it to your life, because I know a video is going to reach somewhere that a text Bible is not. So normally I'm trying to cover as much area, as much material as I can, and try to keep my opinions to the minimum. But today I really wanted to come back and spend some time on these 5 verses and talk about how it's applicable to your career, your marriage, your children, your finances, all these different things. We've got to be vigilant. We've got to protect what's ours, what's God's. We can't let the world come in and steal from us. We have to be vigilant. We cannot be lazy. And so that's the lesson for today. Tomorrow or Monday we will pick up with Proverbs 25, and hopefully I will figure this technology thing out, and we'll keep moving forward. If you enjoyed this, like it, comment it, share it out with your friends list. I appreciate your feedback, and we'll talk to you next time. Have a good day.